We'll just give everyone a minute or two to get in.
Yeah.
Starting. I think we can probably go ahead and start, Julie.
Okay, great. Yeah, as people are still coming in, but we'll get started because we have a lot to cover today. My name's Julie Kipp, and I want to welcome you all. I'm the chair of the executive committee of ISPS. And I'll start by just giving you a little introduction to ISPS, those of you that may not know about us. ISPS is the International Society for Psychological and for psychosocial and psychological and social approaches to psychosis. Boy, I mangled that. This organization was started by two psychiatrists in Switzerland in 1956. So we've been around for a long time. But the last couple of decades, we've really evolved to be an organization that is a meeting place for people with lived experience, as well as family members, as well as clinicians of multiple different professions, and all the intersections between those groups. We have a quarterly journal, Psychosis, and we have a book series with Routledge, which currently is up to 33 titles over the last almost 20 years. And we have local chapters throughout the world. Currently, we're developing new chapters in Armenia and India. So we're reaching across the globe. So if you're not already a member of ISPS, you can go to our website, isps.org, and find your local chapter. And please join us. our next international conference will be in Helsinki, Finland, about a year from now, in early June of 2024. So you'll get information about that as well. So I'm happy now just to turn this over to Ludi van Baal, to introduce this webinar today on open dialogue and Soteria, which I'm looking forward to hearing myself. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. On behalf of the people here in Belgium, I wish you also a warm welcome to this webinar. I'm Huguette. I'm psychiatrist and psychoanalyst working in Flanders, the Dutch part of Belgium, and also a member of the executive committee of ISPS and member of the board of ISPS Lowlands. First of all, I want to thank Jen Killian, who invited us to present in this webinar our symposium that we organized during the Perugia conference of ISPS in 2022. As most of you know, the first Soteria house is developed by Lauren Mosher in San Francisco in the 70s of past century. And Luc Chompy is a Swiss psychiatrist who started the first Soteria house in Europe in 1984. A Soteria house is, like you know, a kind of therapeutic community located in a normal-looking, nice house in the village or in the city. People are treated there in a very human, non-coercive way, in a continuing being with, and this in strong connection with the family and the environment. Medication is only prescribed if strict necessary, and always in consensus with the person in crisis. The open dialogue approach was developed by Jaakko Sekula in Western Lapland in Finland in the 90s of past century. In the open dialogue approach, professionals seek connections and dialogue with and between everyone involved when someone goes through a psychotic crisis. Without delay, the different voices, experiences, and perspectives are listened to in an open approach. Apart from other common grounds, open dialogue translates the Soteria being with concept to a dialogical practice of polyphony and tolerance of uncertainty. No wonder that the group looking for the development of Soteria and the group promoting open dialogue in Belgium found each other. It's a pleasure for me to introduce 5 people in this webinar who are engaged to develop these 2 approaches in our country from bottom up. But it's not an easy road, because we have to convince the policymakers to think out of the box for the best treatment for psychosis. I will introduce 5 speakers in this introduction so as to not lose time when we switch the microphone. The session will be opened by Nadia Mahjoub. Nadia? Yeah. Nadia has experienced several psychoses. She has been working as a volunteer for the patients movement in Belgium for more than 20 years, running peer support groups on psychosis and advocating for more human care without coercion. She's a member of ISPS and also of the Soteria Flanders working group. She's a linguist, and her love for language, but also her standing up for human care and psychosis treatment are an important stimulus in our work. Her testimony speaks volumes. She would like to share with you why Soteria and open dialogue are so important to her. The second presentation will be given by Huyghebaert Beyens. Hi, Huguette. Huguette is an art psychotherapist and founder of House Pustinia, a low-threshold house where people can come to calm down and to reflect on what happens in their life. She's an active board member of our local ISPS network in Flanders, the Netherlands, and also of the Soteria Flanders working group. She always advocates for a human approach for people going through an existential crisis and works with them to find out how they can give meaning and response to their mental crisis. Dag van Wedder will give 2 presentations. First of all, the presentation of Elke Harik, who unfortunately could not be present today. Elke Harek is staff officer at Psyche, a non-profit organization in Flanders. She's the chair of the Soteria Flanders Working Group, and she does so with admirable commitment and great respect for every participant in the group, as she's not here now. Dag van Wetter himself, he's master in the medical social sciences, an open dialogue companion, and also staff officer at Psyche, co-creating open dialogue practice in Flanders. After promoting open dialogue development in the region of Northwest Flanders since 2016, Dag is now facilitating open dialogue meetings, supporting teams and co-coordinating projects on the development of open dialogue practice in all Flanders. The last presentation will be given by Stefaan Huyghebaert. Hi, Stefaan. Stefaan is co-founder and core member of El Camino Bekegem, also a non-profit organization, a house where people come together around sensitivity for psychosis. El Camino Bekegem is a meeting place on its way to a temporary stay for people with psychosis, together with their loved ones and care providers. Stefaan, who is a father of a son with experience of psychosis, takes you through a story that is compelling because of its engaging nature. We start the webinar with a story of a person with lived experience, and we're happy to give the last word to a family member. We only have 120 minutes for 5 presentations, so we don't have not so much time. So I ask the speakers to respect the time schedule of 15 minutes for a presentation. During the presentation, you can ask questions by using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Normally Jen Killian, she's not yet here, but I hope she will be present very soon. And Julie Kipp will collect the questions and present them during the discussion. We will have a small break of 5 minutes just before the discussion and start again at 8:00 p.m. And we are happy that 2 persons will give their first comments to start with the discussion. First of all, Walter Gekle. There is Walter. Hi, Walter, who is the current medical director of Soteria Bern. And secondly, Andrea Zwicknagel. She's open dialogue practitioner in Switzerland with her own experience of psychosis also. But now the word is to Nadia Mahjoub. Nadia, you can start.
Thank you, Ludi. I will try and share my screen.
It's okay, Nadia.
Yeah. So wait. So do you see the first Why Soterian Open Dialogue?
Yes, we see the first slide and also the other slides too.
It's not the same as it was before, but I see something different, but it's okay. So I'm Nadia Mahjoub. I turned 50 in December and I live in Brussels, the capital of Belgium. I have experienced several psychotic breaks in my life. For more than 20 years, I have been involved as a volunteer for the non-profit organization Eulenspiegel. It's an organization for people with mental vulnerability. Among other things, I ran the peer group there for people who recovered from psychosis, and I'm co-founder of Nadia, which is an initiative that aims to address the overuse of coercion in mental health and promotes alternative approaches. I was asked to share with you what Soterian Open Dialogue means to me. I would therefore like to tell you the story of my first psychosis, because I think staying in a Soteria home or the open dialogue approach could have made a great difference. The story of my first psychosis. When I was 24, now 26 years ago, I suffered my first psychosis break. I was working as a language teacher in a very nice secondary school in Brussels, the school where I myself had been taught as a pupil. So my former teachers became my colleagues. That was a strange experience, but not unpleasant. I replaced the teacher who was sick for several weeks. I found teaching fun, but also rather tough, especially because as a beginning teacher, you were called in for temporary replacements every time. That meant that with each new assignment that lasts about several weeks or months, you had at least 200 new students or pupils in front of you in the classroom, 200 faces to get to know, 200 names to remember, preparing new subjects each time, getting used to a different school climate. It was not very easy and sometimes overwhelming. I had studied German languages, linguistics, and had received a teacher training. This school was the 6th school in 2 years where I would teach. After I had been teaching for a few weeks in that school, another long-term vacancy came up at the same school in Brussels with an opportunity of a permanent appointment. The headmaster was satisfied with my performance and asked me to temporarily combine the 2 full-time assignments so that I could stay working for the school. I grabbed this opportunity with both hands, but I did not realize this would mean the end of my teaching career. Combining 2 full-time teaching jobs, even if only temporarily, was madness. When after about 3 weeks, I had finally found a workable rhythm and felt that I had everything under control, I was actually drawing on my reserves. Quite possibly, I was hypomanic by then. I barely slept and had brilliant ideas on how to make classes run better and more efficiently. My body gave a clear signal that I ignored. I developed a skin rash, a form of psoriasis. The Friday before my psychosis broke out, I left for home after the 6th teaching hour. In my early confusion, I thought I was done for the day, but the pupils who had lessons from me for the 7th hour were waiting for me. Then the next day, on Saturday, the psychosis broke out. The lack of sleep and hard work had left me completely upset and confused. My partner at the time took me to the general hospital. Once I arrived at the hospital, I was completely calm again. I was convinced that nothing was wrong with me. Even the lady at the reception desk confirmed me. Nothing was wrong with me. Yet, I would spend that first night in the hospital in the psychiatric ward, where I willingly and voluntarily consented to be admitted. They would soon let me go again, I thought. I didn't resist my admission at all. But that first night, things went seriously wrong. I remember being convinced that I was ill and had HIV. I thought I recognized my parents in the faces of the fellow patients. The fearsome-looking gypsy man with his dark eyes somehow resembled my father. No, he was my father. My ideas became reality the moment I thought them. The soft, lovely woman with the long hair looked somewhat like my mother, and she really did become my mother in my perception. I had megalomaniacal ideas about how I would infiltrate the far-right political party that was on the rise, and how I would disrupt the party from within. I was confused and became increasingly restless. In the psychiatric ward, there was a mixture of patients with different disorders. A girl with anorexia, skin and bones, an older woman who was constantly screaming out of pain, a drug-addicted, love-starved young man. There's a plane coming by, I hope it doesn't disrupt. So there was a drug-addicted, love-starved young man, an older man who always said the opposite of what he meant, and a young Chinese woman who reminded me of my Chinese best friend. There were too many new impressions, too many stimuli. I searched for a grip in vain. When bedtime came that first day of my admission, I did not manage to relax in my cold hospital bed in a room that smelled of old urine. I did, after all, have the luxury of an in-room toilet. I missed my boyfriend and our familiar flats, so I went out into the corridor and smoked a cigarette I asked for a fellow patient. I smoked it in the smoking area. Every attempt to go to sleep failed, and I kept haunting the central corridor. I remember going into fellow patient's room because I felt such a great need for company, for someone to talk to. Here, I apparently breached a boundary for the nurses. I was strapped to my bed by hands, feet, and loins. Before I fully realized that I was tied up, the nurses had already disappeared from the room. The toilet was only a few meters away from me, but I could not go there, even though I urgently needed to pee. So I started shouting, "Hey, I need to go to the toilet. Can you someone untie me, please?" I had no idea what time it was, but I did know it was high time I needed to go to the toilet. The pressure in my bladder became increasingly painful. However, the revulsion at the humiliation that would come with peeing in bed was stronger than the physical pain I endured. I kept shouting until my voice was hoarse. All night, I did not understand the cruelty. Even when morning came, I still was not released. It was only around 10 a.m. that the nurse came in and he said, "Are you still strapped in here?" And he untied me. I don't remember what I thought or felt then. That has been erased from my memory. However, the grin on the nurse's face is etched in my memory. That this first night in psychiatry marked me severely is undeniable. And it would not be the last experience with coercion and restraint for me. In subsequent admissions too, I ended up in solitary confinement or tied to the bed. The mere presence of a solitary confinement or isolation cell on a ward evoked a frantic fear in me. Clearly, I was traumatized by my very first admission, and therefore I fell into a vicious circle where the fear of admission each time made me so unreasonable that a forced admission, another isolation, or restraints followed almost automatically. In my opinion, there's something lacking in the way people in crisis are taken care of. Even today, admissions are still too often accompanied by coercion. Also, the crowded conditions and time pressure on a closed ward are not always suitable to calm down when you have a psychosis. Fortunately, there is increasing attention to different approaches, high intensive care, for instance. And I would now like to share a part of my presentation. Do you see these green and red?
Yes, excellent, Nadia.
Okay, so I would want to say that I did experience a lot of good care in psychiatry. 90% of it can be called positive, but it was not positive when I had a psychosis or was in crisis. So the positive things is when I was in day hospitalization or post-hospitalization, or when I had outpatient therapy, post-crisis care. But the negative 10%, and which are traumatizing and weigh through or keep in my head as a trauma, is in the psychiatric wards in general hospitals and the closed wards of psychiatric hospitals, which was accompanied with a lot of coercion, physical restraints, isolation, high doses of sometimes coercive medication. Do you see the last slide? I don't see it.
I just only did the slide with the green.
Yeah.
No.
A bit difficult. This one.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So my last bits. So more than a decade ago, I discovered the open dialogue approach and the workings of Soteria houses through documentaries, books, and articles. I immediately thought, yes, that's it. That is the kind of care I would want to receive if I'm going through a psychotic episode, especially the first one. These places and approaches offer what is still too often lacking in current mental health care: presence, taking time to build trust and listening. After all, my symptoms are not there to be immediately suppressed, but are an expression of what is going on deep inside at soul level and needs attention. I'm fairly convinced that the evolution of my condition could have gone very differently if I had benefited from open dialogue and Soteria during my first psychotic break at age 24. Thanks for your attention. I think the next person is Huguette.
Yes, Huguette, you can come to the screen now.
Good. Good.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you see my slides? Yeah.
Yes, we see your slide.
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
I
there you
can
are.
start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening, and thank you so much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share some reflections about the subject of this webinar. I also thank my companions for their engagement in this matter. For the subject, Soteria meets open dialogue really matters in times wherein a lot of people are deeply in search for connection and connectedness. I think that the subject concerns us all. The need for mental health becomes more and more a collective need, and creating healing spaces for dealing with mental health issues is a collective duty. The reflections that I will share with you find their basis in the text of the Principles for the Protection of Persons with Mental Illness and the Improvement of Mental Health Care in the Declaration of Human Rights, prepared by the United Nations. In connection with our subject, I first like to quote some lines from the text consisting of 25 principles. All persons with a mental illness or who are being treated as such persons shall be treated with humanity and respect for the inherent dignity of the human person. Every person with a mental illness shall have the rights to live and to work as far as possible in the community. Every person shall have the right to be treated and cared for as far as possible in the community in which he or she lives. Therefore, with this in the mind, the title of my contribution tonight will be Merging and Keeping Together, the cornerstone of a Soteria home. A cornerstone is the first stone placed in the construction of a masonry foundation. All other stones will be placed in reference to this stone, thus determining the position of the entire structure. This is the original meaning of a cornerstone. Nowadays, the cornerstone is only just an ornament in a building. But here I like to consider the cornerstone as the original sense of the word. And I will use it as a metaphor for an approach wherein a Soteria attitude and the form of dialoguing applied and defined in open dialogue touch each other to enlighten a little bit what can emerge from this point of contact. A choice that is also based on a long experience of working with people with lived experience of psychosis and other forms of mental distress. Sometimes,
For 40 years.
for 40 years, I am living in a house where we are hosting people in distress, also people in recovery after a psychotic experience. Sometimes I needed to talk with the family and friends who were concerned, and I observed that the fundamental fear of the person in distress and all who were concerned was the fear to lose connection with the feeling of belonging to one of the universal needs of human existence. In an article for Psychiatry and Psychology, psychotherapist Angela Thijssen writes, quote, "Nearly every aspect of our lives is organized around belonging to something. The sense of belonging is fundamental to the way humankind organizes itself. We cannot separate the importance of a sense of belonging from physical and mental health." So over the years and having lived many experiences, the next question rose up, how to merge and keeping people together. And I discovered that people need a home, a safe place to express the vulnerability of not knowing what to do and what to be. For not knowing what to do and what to be creates a sense of loss of human dignity, and also the sense to lose ability to refer to what gives value and meaning to our existence. What binds us together in times of crisis is the safety to be together and to share and live together moments of destabilization and vulnerability without losing human dignity. And together explore the strength to hold together what looks like falling in parts and is not longer oriented at the center of being. Through coming together in a safe place, a circle mostly, that gives expression to the need to keep all members of the group together, in the safe space of the circle, there can be an openness to see the other as yourself and yourself as the other. Then otherness becomes the mirror to better recognize ourselves. The group mirrors the diversity of being, anchored in a vulnerability, which shared in a secure environment becomes an instrument and to be together and to create appropriate responses. Responses that are not the product of thinking, but of reflecting and mirroring. In this context, a Soteria home means metaphorical more than a Soteria house. A house is not always a home. Coming home is coming to what brings me to the center of myself, to become who I am and what I need to be myself, and give value and meaning to my identity and way of life. Home means the place where security meets dialogue, a safe place that helps to break through an encapsulated mind and an overwhelming feeling of loneliness. Just as belonging to dialogue is one of the basic needs of a human being. Dia in Greek means true and logos meaning. To give words to creates meaning. In a sense, dialogue means a flow of meaning. Merging people together in a circle is helping them to come in touch with the flow of meaning. And this flow of meaning bonds and keeps people together. For this experience in the field, open dialogues create good conditions for a sane dialogue, a dialogue that considers otherness as a possibility to see things in different corners, with a common attitude to reach out to the other for working and being together. This is a driving force in being with and doing with, and moves at the core of a psychodynamic approach of a crisis that in this approach is considered as an opportunity to grow and develop and learn a form of appropriate self-care. Being with and doing with, the two core principles of a Soteria house, that in the sense of merging and keeping together becomes a home, a safe place to be and to do, in a spirit of holding, in a living community, wherein each member is involved in a common process of health. One day, a person in crisis, initiated for the first time in an open dialogue approach with his family and friends, gave me a little piece of woven wool. He used different colors to express his need to weave in the differences of the family members in one coherent pattern, reflected in the woven piece of tissue. His gesture touched me a lot because in the middle of the process of living the psychosis, he could not find the words to express his need, but he found a creative way that led him to a better response to difficult circumstances. He was no longer isolated, but part of the family, reflected in the woven tissue as a whole. Weaving and creating the tissue in that way gave him the sense for belonging to, and this sense is a very important element of creating a space for healing disturbed relationships. But at first, it starts as a feeling in the body before it can be expressed in appropriated words. In my observations, I noticed that psychosis disturbs relationships and the feeling of belonging to. And this undermines this very fundamental condition for mental health. It infects everyone who lives a close relationship with the person in distress. I also observed the sensibility of people in the middle of a process of psychosis for the coherence and the split in family. It resonates with inner coherence and split. When the order is restored, in the sense that each member of the family can find and redefine a comfortable position in the process that feels safe, a movement facilitated by open dialogue, a process of inner reordering in the psyche can start. So in some way, we can talk about psychosis as a disturbed order, but manifests itself by a disorder and tends to reorder. A Soteria home creates good conditions for reordering. Instead of an attempt to adapt to a no longer healthy environment, instead of focusing on the disorder, for that is only the symptom, we better focus on the longing for reordering in the sense of orienting on the cornerstone, belonging to. And this is by respecting the principles of open dialogue that tends to see and hear the hidden solutions in that which can be expressed by words, gestures, and speaking silences. It's a form of weaving, of merging and keeping together. Merging together creates conditions for growth and consolidates sane relationships after repositioning the family members. One example, for the open dialogue, a mother was overprotective, and this overwhelmed the person in the process of psychosis. She could not find another way to canalize her love and concern for her son. After a while, dialoguing in a safe space home, she found meaning in the role of preparing the meals for all the companions involved in a common care for. She found rest in her soul, and the son responded by sharing his inner torments. She didn't need to interfere any longer and responded more adequately by being with and doing with. And he was able now to help peeling the potatoes, and so little by little, reality could play a role in his process of reordering, thus in better conditions. A safe home, in the broader sense of the word, helps to resolve family stress and turns it in a building energy, the energy to build a new environment, a house to live every day's reality, where all the stones are centered around the cornerstone. I wish all of you an experience of coming home, and I believe that opening a Soteria house with a focus on home and with an instrument as open dialogue will provide the healthy conditions for preserving the human dignity of a person in crisis and his relatives, and helps to move together in a flow of meaning. Home is the place where you come in touch with the place where you feel that you belong. May the point of contact between a Soteria house and open dialogue give you this feeling, a point of orientation, just as the cornerstone in a building, the stone that binds all the stones together. I thank you all for listening and give the floor to my companion, Dag van Wetter.
Thank you so much, Huguette, for your very rich and poetic words. Now it's Dag. Huh?
I'm not sure if you see the screen.
Yes, we see the screen and we hear you.
Okay, there's something strange happening here, but never mind. Okay. Yeah. Good evening, all. Unfortunately, I'm not alcoholic because she couldn't be here with us tonight, and I will try to replace her with, which is not an easy thing to do, because she is really one of a kind, a unique colleague of mine, who is hard to replace, but I will try to keep her flame up high, and use the words and the values that she learned me. Yeah, and I'm also hoping that one day you meet her in person, because she is the kind of persons that we all need around us. Okay, so first I'm gonna tell about the Soteria Houses Flanders Working Group, where she is the president of. And one thing that we share, Elke and I, is that we always help each other to remind why we are doing things, not trying to replicate what works, but try to keep on discussing and remembering ourselves and addressing each other why we are doing things. So it's really important also concerning Soteria Houses to address each other and remember ourselves on the why. And only when we are prepared to think and rethink about the why, then we can think about the how, the principles of, for instance, our own commitment, how the participation of others could be important. And then thinking about the why and the how, then we can think about the what. And then, yeah, the what must be something that doesn't replicate itself. That's something that we have to do each time again, over and over. Think about how we can contribute to the change that's needed at that moment, always starting from the why. And starting from that why is why we are trying to bring companions together. And in the Soteria Houses Working Group, it's people with lived experience with psychosis, people with family experience and professional experience that found each other and are sharing that something is missing in mental health practice, a need for creating a home-like places for people going through psychotic crisis and a safe environment with the necessary care and support, also for the others around. So not only for the person, but for everyone as involved. And in this working group, we are sharing and feeling that there's a growing interest in the development of Soteria Houses in Flanders, Belgium. Soteria is actually a quite ancient Greek word, meaning salvation, rescue, protection. And Soteria House refers to a protective, relaxing, soothing, and connecting environment. The first Soteria House was founded in 1971 in San Francisco, USA, by Lon Mosher and Alma Men. And afterwards, the first European Soteria House was founded by Luc Ciompi in Bern, Switzerland. And in the years after, there were Soteria Houses in Germany, Hungary, Italy, Israel. What is a Soteria House? It's an alternative to admission to a psychiatric hospital in case of a psychotic crisis. It's in a house, in a small, relaxing, stimulus, protecting environment, what you could call a home, like Huyghebaert was calling it, feeling as normal as possible. And that normality can be so therapeutic. Just an ordinary house in a village or a town with a pleasant family atmosphere, with a group of 8 to 10 temporary residents experiencing a psychotic crisis and a milieu therapeutic approach. You already heard the other speakers refer to the principles of being with and doing with, and it really says a lot about the Soteria House, but it's always connected to these principles. For instance, the continuous warm proximity of others, not only family, but also peer workers, professionals, people connecting with each other. The liberation of common goals and expectations. If there's antipsychotics use, then that's in a consensual way and on a limited doses. Also, the people working there, the staff, are people with many human qualities and are selected on that. The residents and the team members are just handling activities of daily life, just together as the day rolls on. Also important is the collaboration and alliance with other professionals and healthcare organizations, integration in the local community, and the promise or the commitment of aftercare and relapse prevention for at least 2 years. Here's some examples in Bern and Zwiefalten. This is a part of our Soteria Houses Flanders working group when we were visiting El Camino, in the garden of El Camino. And it was Elke who took the picture. So she isn't on the picture, so I added her. Then you get a glance of who she is. The Soteria Houses Flanders working group. So it brings together people with lived experience with psychosis, family members and professionals from all Flanders, together promoting a sustainable implementation of Soteria Houses. And yeah, because there are so many people also from mental health care organizations involved, it's clear that we are prepared to do this in alliance with the existing mental health care organizations and as a complement to the current mental health care landscape. This working group, apart from sharing our ideas and beliefs, we are also networking on a regional level, but also in Flanders, Belgium, and also international. We are organizing Soteria info evenings around Flanders. And yeah, it's nice to see that it leads to exchange with unsuspected allies, for instance, city administrations who are helping to connect us with other projects, plans or partners, even looking for houses where we could set up a Soteria house. We also had some official meetings with regional mental health networks, and were invited to talk with the coordinator of the National Mental Health Reform. We also were invited to join an international Soteria and peer support summit, also webinar. And we organized this webinar with Dr. Pesach Lichtenberg from Soteria Israel. And of course, that's already referring to El Camino Beckham, this group. Other related projects that are starting to happen. We also are preparing some ideas on research on the necessary next steps in the development of Soteria practice. And we spreaded a Soteria Houses manifesto in Flanders, and it's already signed by more than 1,460 people, including, and that's really special and encouraging, many mental health care managers and organizations. You are, of course, also welcome to sign this manifesto, even if it's in Dutch. But I'd like to end with this, because these are the words of Elke about the importance of alliance and the why, because we really feel and experience that the sound of the why about Soteria Houses has become much louder than the why not. So we believe that we can make this why even stronger by just taking the next steps. I'm gonna change to my own presentation about open dialogue in the cultural context of Flanders. First, say something about Flanders, because Flanders is so a tiny part, but there's something special that we may be proud of. We are located in the northern part of Belgium. We speak Flemish, which is actually a variant of Dutch. But we're our little that we are proud to be part of the Flemish community, part of Belgium, part of Europe, part of the world, and also more and more part of an open dialogue movement. Last summer, there was, I live in Bruges, and on one of the beautiful historical squares, there was a concert of Sudan Vega, and there's a song that she sang there, Song of David, so about David and Goliath. And one of the lines, the lyrics in that song is, "What's so small to you is so large to me, just a rock in this pocket." And my wife was sitting next to me and she looked at me and I knew what she heard in this song. And we can relate to that because the development of open dialogue practice in Flanders started from something very small, but so meaningful, just believing in something and sharing that belief. So sharing that belief is also about bringing companions together. Some years ago, we started from many different organizations to share our ideas on collaboration and rethinking mental health practice across organizations, and not only across organizations, but also seeking connection with and between all people who are already involved. So not only professionals. That was clear that we wouldn't do this in this classical way. We really involved and seek connection with the people that were already involved in all these stories. And we said some things to each other. If we really want to learn to work differently, for instance, then let's do this together. Then we need each other, then we can encourage and make a difference together. Also saying to each other that we can be experts without stumbling over our own expertise. So yeah, that's two things. We can be experts, but we can only be an expert if we first listen and keep our expertise in our backpack. And after we listen to people, then we can really carefully reach into our backpacks what we can maybe offer. But if we just are using our expertise too soon and without really connecting to people, then we stumble over it. And the people that we try to help also stumble at the same time. Also saying to each other that we had to get loose of our agenda and promising each other that we would have the vision of when we meet people. The purpose of the first meeting is just that we meet each other, that we try to participate in where the people are at that moment, without any agenda, but just with the hope that this one first meeting would be good enough to be able to have a next meeting. So we try to be an active participant that the people feel that we try to connect with them. And daring to turn the system inside out from within, daring to change ourselves. And then we tried to use other words, and we tried to, it was clear that we liked the word companion. Certainly in Flemish, we say compagnon of compagnons. And we really were thinking, how can we be companions to each other? How can we be supportive as real companions? But also asking to people who are your companions that we could involve. Also thinking about the companions that we need to work in another way. So yeah, talking with each other about the companions that they need, that we need. And in all these change that we felt we were doing, things were really changing, working and co-creating together, but we felt that we were also inspired by practices that seem to work well elsewhere, like open dialogue. So I'm going to connect to open dialogue now, and of course this is not a course about open dialogue, but I will refer to the 7 principles of open dialogue, but because they seem also directly related to the being with and doing with of Soteria houses. The 7 principles of open dialogue are from 2 perspectives, 2 key aspects: a way of being with people and a way of organizing services. A way of being with people is about 1, proximity, and being with is already there, mentioned, but the first 5 principles are also about doing with, seeking connection with people, really trying to organize our services, our care, everything we do in a co-creation way, doing and organizing it together. I'm gonna link some of the meanings of these principles to the Soteria House principles. For instance, immediate help is on the first place, immediate response. Connecting with the person and the support system in a way that we are trying to organize this first meeting together with them, and they are ready, and they are asked to involve each other, to invite each other, in a way that we know that everyone that's involved is also suffering from something that looks like a crisis, are also overwhelmed. And we don't want to postpone the chance. So from the very first moment that we hear about people, we invite them and they invite each other. And that's also related by the principle in the Soteria House that as early as possible, at the first symptoms and before admission appears necessary, it's good to meet each other in the Soteria House and be welcomed there. The next principle is about the social network perspective. From the very first moment, like I said, this immediate response is to everyone involved. So we are connecting and supporting, not only connecting, that's really important. Also ready to support everyone who were actually already involved in the situation. So both the personal and the professional network, how small this network may be at that moment, not only the so-called identified patient as a focus, but the resources, all the relationships. That's, of course, one of the key things in the Soteria House. That's a very close cooperation with family members, close relatives, other important people from the client's network. The next principle about flexibility and mobility is about the thing or the engagement that the duration, place, and content of the support and treatment is attuned to people's own needs, that we together take the time and space to listen to everyone and are prepared not to repeat ourselves or falling into routine, but again and again, giving everything a chance and doing it together every time, over and over again. So being prepared and help each other to let go of fixed structures and habits, and just share the things that we need from each other. Soteria House also is, in a Soteria House, it's also important to share all stories together, share all information, share all plans, and handling activities of daily life together. So that's also related to this flexibility and mobility. Responsibility starts actually with a personal responsibility that the first contacted professional or team takes the personal responsibility for organizing the first meeting. So not the classical way of thinking this is not for us and send someone from pillar to post, but thinking what can we do? Who can we connect with? And maybe we have to connect people from other teams, but by involving those other people, it becomes a shared responsibility. And that's a beautiful thing to experience also as a professional, like I am. That's this way it becomes a shared responsibility. If you're helping people and take that responsibility, a lot of responsibility shared. In the Soteria House, it's also focused on the alliance and the shared responsibility with the existing mental health organizations and as a complement to the current mental health landscape. Psychological continuity is about the experience of the people themselves to the feeling, the experience of continuity, that the professionals are prepared to focus or to make sure that the altering transitions from one setting or service to another are much smoother by involving people that were already involved in helping or treating the person or helping the family, and keeping cooperation and connection across teams. Also in this way, throughout open dialogue meetings and involving people that were already involved, involving new people, we also make sure that the time needed is provided over all these open dialogue meetings, and the promise of always next time. That's something that we say a lot. What do you need until the next time? The promise that there will always be a next time possible. Also in the Soteria House, this personal continuity and consistent support is really important from the acute phase to the entire recovery process. And then we go to the last, being with principles, like I'll call them. For instance, the first one is not the most easy one, but many of us, not only for me, but also from our colleagues, it became the favorite one, because it helps us remind the tolerance of uncertainty, that we are actually not knowing what's happening, and we are prepared and realizing that it's not good to take over and to have no to be aware that we shouldn't have a preconceived therapeutic plan. We are not in charge of the process, but ensure that there is room for dialogue and carrying the situation together. So safety is built together by making sure that the person, family, and close relatives are not left alone, that everyone is heard. So safety from connection, not safety from taking over. But taking care that everyone can go on until the next time. Again, the next time, so important. What do you need until the next time we meet? That's also related to the practice in the Soteria House, enabling a safe environment based on warm proximity, presence, and connection, without coercion, limited use of medication, and attuning to one's own choices with principles and other practices based on shared decision-making, crisis plans, for instance. And then, of course, the dialogism and the polyphony, the openness, because the purpose of an open dialogue meeting is not to identify the problem, but the meaning of the situation. The solution or the perspectives come from the dialogue, not from a treatment plan. But we will focus on to be open to all participants. Everyone who can be helpful, who is already involved, is invited. Open to every voice, open to every topic. And also the professionals are prepared to be open, not only by co-facilitating, but also by reflecting. two facilitators are ready to transparently reflect on what they heard, thought, and felt. And in this way, this horizontal dialogue between people at the same time becomes a vertical inner dialogue where people start to use what's been helpful from what they hear from others. Also related to a Soteria house, the practice is that an open, transparent exchange between the person, family, and professionals, like a kind of trialogue on every topic: psychosis, treatment, opportunities, limits, personal goals and wishes. For instance, on housing, work, education, recreation, and of course, the restoring of hope for the future. We found some encouragement of combining open dialogue and Soteria from other companions, international companions, like psychiatrist Volkmar Aderholt from Soteria, Germany, and also an open dialogue trainer of mine, of course. He says we need alliance and friendship with the mental health care organizations. And I think that our best chance of getting these values in the mainstream system is open dialogue. And he also referred to Laura Mosher, who said at the end of his life, if I would start anew with the Soteria house, then I'd start from open dialogue. And then we heard and met Professor and psychiatrist Pesach Lichtenberg, the founder and professional director of Soteria Israel. And also he said that from my experience, the principles of Soteria and open dialogue are completely compatible, even synergistic. And then in the World Health Organization guidance on community mental health service, there was also a referral to Soteria Bern, of course, and Walter Hekle, who's also present here as a successor of Luc Ciompi, and he was cited that also in this Soteria house, the open dialogue approach was introduced during a weekly treatment conference. A person reflects on the past week with team members and focuses on the next steps or aims in treatment. Yeah, so in Flanders, we are on the road with open dialogue, and I think this road started by saying to each other and realizing that the best way to start something is just begin and bring together the right people. That's really something that we wanted to add, not just begin, but bring together the right people and believe in something. And then we had two conferences in the north, west of Flanders, exchanging with many people, international open dialogue pioneers from different countries. We also had some extra masterclasses for team members, but also for managers, directors, and another one for psychiatrists. We started with an intervision group and an open dialogue reading group. But in 2017, after some first experiments, we really decided to get the ball rolling and promise each other to set priority to develop open dialogue practice and involve each other from different teams over different teams. Not waiting for all to be well arranged and that we felt ready, but really think what could be the next possible step. What can we do differently next time? And also, yeah, by involving each other, realizing that we couldn't be a companion on our own, but thinking and inviting each other to be involved. And again, from each situation and with as many joint forces as possible, together just learning from each other to live up to the open dialogue principles and what's further needed. We started building alliances on different ways. For instance, with our directors, psychiatrists, and policymakers, we had an open dialogue SWOT analysis and an open dialogue commitment day, where they were not only invited, but also addressed about their role. We were invited by someone who was organizing a national conference on social psychiatry reform, We were invited to also focus on open dialogue and invite some international companions. Then we got, maybe too soon, but it was very encouraging that we got a Flemish Open Minds Award for our open dialogue project as a sustainable innovation towards better mental health care and with a meaningful support for each other. And of course, continued to have international exchanges. Then in 2020, I was asked to join the Flemish Focal Point Mental Health, where I got the chance to just be an active supporter, companion in preparation, cooperation, and co-facilitating open dialogue meetings with so many teams. We started all co-organizing and coordinating official open dialogue trainings in Flanders already for the 4th time. And it's always 2 organizations who are prepared to step up and let people participate from their own region together with people from other regions. We also have some specific partnerships in Leuven, for instance, and it's really a research project on the development of open dialogue practice. In Ghent, we have a Home First project, integrating fellow citizenship.
Sorry, Dak, you just
dialogue.
have 1 minute.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just 1 minute left.
Yeah, and family platform, promoting family reflex, and then El Camino, of course. Yeah, what we are doing is actually growing, making a growing Flemish network. And it's typical that we don't call it a Flemish network open dialogue, but a Goesting open dialogue network, because it's Goesting is a Flemish word, hard to translate. It refers to eagerness, desire, passion. We're also making it part of a bigger picture, co-creating and relating it to other community-based, right-based and recovery-based practices with other colleagues, and spreading hope. And hope is really not something naive. And it's more than optimism. It's optimism with roll-up sleeves. If someone starts to roll up their sleeves for someone else, other people start also rolling up their sleeves for themselves and for each other. And we have a Flemish word in some regions for that. It means together, but it refers to the word hope. And it also refers that help providers, hope verleners can be hope providers. So we're co-creating some kind of level that keeps us moving and making a professional network together, because we want the path only created by walking it together.
Thank you, Dak. You are so enthusiastic that it was very difficult to interrupt you, but thank you so
I
much.
understand.
Thank you so much. Now the floor is to Stefaan Huyghebaert.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm just going to see how I can share. Okay. Before I share my screen, I want to tell a little bit about our story of my family, because it always reminds me why we are doing this. So I have 2 sons, and one day the youngest one calls me and says, "Dad, it all began when I had a lot of acne. My head keeps on spinning. Your son suffers from a depression. Come to the hospital and observation for a few days. Your son needs a long-term treatment. We search for a treatment facility that works with young adults. After only 5 days of admission in the new facility, my 18-year-old son has been asked to sign a paper that gives permission for electroconvulsive therapy. It would take 3 months before we can talk to the psychiatrist. And when talking about people with psychosis in the courses psychoeducation, the sentence starts with those people. As soon as a professional begins his phrase with, I don't want to deprive you of any hope, but then you know that what follows would do exactly that. My son is on medication and gets electroconvulsive therapy. This way of treatment doesn't feel right to all of us. We miss conversations, we miss information, we miss connection. My son comes home and we buy him a dog. I read about open dialogue and I sign up for the conference about open dialogue in Oostkamp. My son is readmitted in isolation, but in a different hospital. He's the first one to get an open dialogue conversation in that facility. He's getting better help there. They do communicate well, but I still miss connection. After a year of being admitted in the hospital, he's coming home. So what now? I try to find 2 or 3 therapists so that we can continue open dialogue at home. When I contact Dag van Wetter, he replies without hesitation, count me in. While getting to know each other, we bring people together. Some of them with their own lived experiences, some care providers, some relatives. This is how El Camino Beckenham arises. Anyone is welcome with their own experiences, with how it feels to be human, with their challenges and dreams in lives, with tears and laughs. Our goal is not to change nor cure people, but to create a connection, to be close, to bring together a community. We want to create an environment where one can feel at ease with struggles and successes. A place where support can be found in relatives, in care providers, and in people with their own experiences. A place where stories can be told without consequences or judgments. A place where one finds comfort in the story of others. And I'm now gonna try to share my screen. Do you see my screen now?
Not yet, no, not yet.
Okay.
The button? Yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
It's okay now.
Okay, thank you. So El Camino Beckenham in 2019, inspired by open dialogue meetings, we came together. The name of El Camino is the way, so the road, seeking connection with people from different perspectives. So people with a sensitivity for psychosis, but also family and professionals. And at first we invited people through personal contacts. So we asked people to join us to come together and talk and think about how we could make a temporary stay in our house for people suffering from psychosis. So what are the goals of El Camino Beckenham? Our first goal was offering a temporary stay, supported by friends, family, and other close relatives. Also supported by professional and peer workers. But while we were thinking about it, we came together in open idea evenings, we started to talk together and share our stories. And so that's how the open idea evenings became open circles, where we could talk out of the three perspectives. So we are a meeting place around the sensitivity for psychosis, and we are creating a community, meeting each other as a person, not as a diagnosed individual. And the idea of we are all on our way with our challenges in life. We're seeking connection, and we are trying to spread hope. So here you have some pictures of the house and how we come together in the house. So the open circles are always around the fire. So the heart of El Camino is an evening where we connect, talking open and freely about the sensitivity for psychosis and life. Always around a fire, it's homely, it's warm, and we focus on the here and now. So it's a gathering between people with lived experience, family and professionals. We also have open circles had on the road. So we went to Bruges, Veurne, Ostende, and we also inspire other organizations in the country who starting up open circles. We have one in Ghent, and next month another one will start up in Haag. They have visited us a few times, and now in the end of July they're starting the first open circle also in Haag. Here you see the pictures in the garden, and now we have a tipi tent that we made. So also in winter or when it's raining, we have a nice warm shelter. We also had weekends and weeks. It's a weekend where Caminars, that's what we call us, are living together during a whole week or weekend. We start the weekend and the closing is an open circle. Family, friends, and other close relatives are explicitly invited to join, and nothing is planned in advance. So there's the open circle on Friday evening, there's dinner, and then we see how the weekend enrolls. There are groceries that have to be done, cooking, walks, maybe somebody wants to play some music, board games. So we see it as a weekend with friends and see how the weekend enrolls in the house. We also welcome people passing by. So, and it's very much in the philosophy of being with and doing with that we spend time together. Here some pictures of a weekend. We are on Sundays, sometimes we are open on Sundays, and then people can, it's an open house and people can come by. There's a coffee and pie, maybe somebody wants to walk when it's where the weather is good, or we just stay together in the house around the fire. Since a few months we walk, almost every month we have a walking tour. It was in the preparation for our pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela, what we did in Eastern holidays, and we going back next year. So, and we walk every month now with a group of people who want to spend an afternoon walking together. There's also the yoga once or twice a month. It's my son giving the yoga, and it's very nice to see him doing it at El Camino. So where Soteria meets open dialogue, much of the principles and of open dialogue and Soteria we find in El Camino, the dialogue between everyone involved, offering a base of support, also the tolerance of uncertainty, the focus on the stories and the dialogue, the continuity, there's always a next time. We found it very important to have that continuity. Since we started in 2019, we had an open circle at least once a month. Also in COVID period, we had it online. So we find it very important that people know they can come back. So Soteria House, that normal living in a small scale, the homely environment, supported by and for loved ones, the warm proximity. So that's all things you can find in a Soteria house, but what we're living already in El Camino and Beyens. We had our vision statement, a lot of things that are very important for us. We spent some time to make it, but I'm not going to read it now. So what is El Camino today? So a community through activities, and we see that people meet each other also outside El Camino Beyens. We offer the continuity. We are open house where people gather around the sensitivity for psychosis. There have been some open dialogue sessions also in El Camino. So we founded the non-profit society El Camino Beyens, and at this time we have 10 core members, but I think Monday we'll have 11 core members who put their shoulders to the wheel. So people with lived experiences, family experience and professional experience. So what is the future? What are our challenges? So in the first, we want to continue what we already doing. So the open circles, the Sundays, the walks. We also had 2 hearing voices evenings, so that we want to continue and expand. We our walks and our pilgrimage next year to Santiago de Compostela, we're doing it again. We are creating a network, widely supported, building bridges in cooperation with existing health care organizations. So we're looking for companions in existing healthcare organizations. And at this time, we are finishing in the finishing phase of our Soteria file. It's a file we want to go with to publicity makers, so that we can give them what a Soteria house would be like, what the cost is, and we are starting an image and lobbying campaign in autumn before the next elections. But doing this, we still reflect on why are we doing this and for who are we doing this for. We keep on focusing on walking together, and the path unrolls is why walking. So it's we keep on asking ourselves over and over again for who and why are we doing this, and that's we learn a lot from connections and from conversations with people. So it's a going on process. And we try to remember that we don't want to be analyzed and diagnosed, but we all want to be belonged, cared for, and feel connected. with others and with ourselves. So everybody is looking for purpose and meaning in life, and we want to help supporting that. So that will be
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you very much, Stefan. It's really very hopeful what you are doing, and on your way to also to open your Soteria house, the first one in Belgium. That would be very, very good. Thanks to all the speakers, but now we will take some minutes break, because it were many speakers, so you can have a break of 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes we come back for the discussion. So a short break now. So a good idea, Walter, that you start a discussion by reflection, and also that Andrea does the same, huh? While the other panelists are listening, and they can also give their reflections on the reflections of Walter and Andrea. Huh? But we need also time to have a discussion with the audiences. So I propose to start in 1 minute, and then, if possible, to do these reflections all together in 10 minutes, so we can start at 9:15 with the discussion with the audience.
Lydia, I can now open my video. The host has interrupted my video. No, I can.
I will try to open it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this order now. Yeah. Yeah. And Nadia, is Nadia also there? And Andrea?
I can see myself in the screen.
Andrea, you're still muted.
Yeah. Andrea, you can unmute yourself. Andrea?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Welcome everyone again. Now we start a discussion, and we decided to start a discussion first by giving a reflection that will be given by Walter Gekle from Soteria Bern, and also by Andrea. She's also an open dialogue practitioner in Switzerland and a person with lived experience. So they will give a reflection, and the panelists can react on it. And we take only 10 minutes for this. It's not so long, but we will give the opportunity to the audience because there are many Q&As, and it is then Killian and also Julie Kipp who will make a choice between all those Q&A questions. But let's start now with the reflections of Walter and Andrea. Walter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ludi, and thank you everybody for listening. And we do it. I just had a call with Andrea in the break, and we decided to do it like following. And we will start with a general reflection. First, me, then Andrea,
yeah,
and then we will have a reflection for each presentation from each one of us. And that will not take longer than 10 minutes because we will skip the usual break between the reflections. So
what? We will skip the breaks between the reflections?
Otherwise we will be too long. Okay.
What is on your heart and mind, Walter, after listening to all of them?
I didn't get you, Andrea.
What is on your heart and mind after listening to all the presentations?
I am deeply impressed by all the empathy and the power which these people expressed by doing their work, by convincing people from their ideas, by trying to spread the fire, like Stefaan, who will lit whole Flanders when he's going to continue like that. So, and the metaphor of fire is something which struck me at the end, in the sense of gathering around the fire, feeling the warmth, but also spreading the fire and keep it burning. So for the future. And what touched you?
Yeah, it's like I saw the announcement for the webinar and Soteria and Open Dialogue in Flanders, and I feel like it's a completely different situation now. It feels like it's in flesh and blood, even if it's only on the screen. But I really have like there are people, there are the burning hearts of all these peoples and their stories and their what they do and what they wish to do, and I'm very grateful for being able to meet, even if it's only online.
Mm-hmm.
So if you agree, Andrea, I would propose that we go to Nadia's presentation. Okay, so if you like, if it's all right, what touched me really as a psychiatrist, as a professional, is that only 10, perhaps only 1% of bad experience can wipe out all the good experiences people have with psychiatric services. And that's why we should be so careful how we deal with people.
I was kind of touched by Nadia as you started off. It felt like what you're doing now, are you doing because of the experiences you had? And you're wondering what would have happened if you had had Soteria or open dialogue in this first episode. And that's what I wondered too. What would have been if I had had open dialogue when first going into different realities? So Walter, I would like disagree with you, because also the bad experiences can develop in more fight for change. How about Doug? He was speaking with two voices, right? No, there's Huyghebaert. We lost Huyghebaert. Shall we go in order?
Yes, I would propose so. And what really impressed me, and what really also helps me in my everyday work, is the struggle for regaining connectedness with from which people who suffer from psychosis have every day, and how happy they are when they have those small islands of shared experiences of reality. And Huguette was talking about doing something in the kitchen. We are peeling the potatoes. I'm always talking about chopping the onions. So.
Yeah, and crying. I take this word of Soteria home with me as something to think about more.
The home thing.
Soteria home, like not Soteria house, but Soteria home.
Yeah. That's much more what it is, basically. People have to feel.
That's what you would say.
Yes, yeah, they have to feel at home. You know, that's in German we have this thing to say you or to say you, which is difficult in English. There it's basically the same, but in Flemish it's u of jij, and iedereen wordt getitoeëerd hier in Soteria, and it's completely normal. So you can't live together with people and do not say you to them. So, but that's very important. So this feeling of connectedness. Yeah, Doug was talking with two tongues. Basically, I would refer to Elke first, and I think she struck a string in expressing. We should always try to explain why Soteria or open dialogue are worth doing it. We should really be more offensive and more open and more even aggressive in challenging conventional psychiatry, in asking them why not, because there is no evidence for conventional psychiatry being better in any way than Soteria and open dialogue. There's no evidence. So this is political.
I was thinking about before, and then Doug, with Elke's voice, like was talking about this. I get really curious when people come together and start something new. I think you can draw from other things like Soteria, like open dialogue. But I love, you said it's like to keep discussing and not just replicating. And I wish all of you wonderful, funny, intense, fighting discussions now and continuing as you step forward. And I'm in the UK at the moment, and I was at a gathering, and with the companions, somebody quoted somebody else, and the quote was, "Find the others."
Mm.
And that's like, that came up again, find the others.
I would like to add a reflection on Doug's presentation as Doug, and the thought which crossed my mind was, you know, open dialogue is like Soteria at home, and Soteria is like open dialogue in an inpatient setting.
Mhm.
So because he was comparing the two ideas so brilliantly. So,
And I love the Camino thing, because I felt like Stefaan is, when he's just going, right? Literally going, but he's not waiting for the Soteria Open Dialogue Network Flanders and all the folks around who are needed. He's just, that was my impression. Just do it, go.
I thought I would have to spend a weekend there.
Okay, we can get together, right?
In the tippy and the Flemish winter. So that's it from us folks. So these are the reflections.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Walter and Andrea, for giving these reflections. We are very, very happy with it. Normally, I would like that you could react, but there is also the audience. The audience, they have many questions. So I will ask Julie Kip and Jen Killian if they can pick up some questions and ask to the panel. Please, Julie or Jen, can you give us some questions? Perhaps good that you put on your screen on now and also your microphones. Hi, Jen. Hi.
Oh, hello everyone. Good evening. Have you got a question ready, Julie?
Yes, I have a few here. Should I start?
Yes,
please.
please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm sure we're not going to be able to get to everyone's questions because there's a lot, but let me just start with this. G. Juranak, if I've pronounced your name right, was asking, well, there was quite a conversation there in the question and answers, but ultimately a question about the challenge of coordinating open dialogue and or Soteria with institutional systems that, like I think he specifically referenced in the United States, that are very institutional and not open to these dialogic ways of working. So I wonder if anyone has a comment about that.
Something for you, Dak, or?
As I'm working in a psychiatric institutional, and as I have worked in many of those, I might perhaps try to say something. And basically, you can start implementing those ideas in the worst clinical settings, because it's a matter of attitude. It's a matter of attitude to listen to patients' preferences. It's a matter of attitude to listen to patients' experiences they had with medication or with other forms of treatment. And we should take it serious. And we can just, we can bend the guidelines to this or that direction, and we should bend the guidelines to the direction towards the direction of patients' preferences. And when patients or users feel that they are taken for serious at that point, they will perhaps take on board some messages and perhaps can make their own thing out of it. They don't have to make what we want, they have to make their own thing out of it. So I think start implementing and things will change.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Shall I ask the next one, Julie? Is that okay?
Yes, go for it.
So there were so many to choose from, and I have to say it's just been such a wonderful, rich discussion. And there's probably loads more questions that people haven't been able to formulate yet, because sometimes we need to reflect on it. But this one is specifically for Stefaan, and it's from Murphy Halliburton. I think I've got that right. And he's saying, Stefaan, you said that you wanted to start the first Soteria house in Belgium. So is El Camino Beckenham not a Soteria house? If it isn't, what is it? And what is the difference between El Camino and a Soteria house?
So
yeah,
it's so that for the moment, we are all volunteers. So, and we come together in the house, and but there's no permanent people in the house at this moment. So we had our weeks and our weekends where we can we ask people to join us, but it's not that we can people in crisis at this moment, we can't handle that. But and this time we are doing experience with we are building connections, and it's like a community. So once when we have the money to build it, we have a lot of professionals and family members who are engaged to make it happen. So at this time we are not a full Soteria house.
But it sounds like it's brilliant practice working towards it. Because if you weren't doing this now, you could have the money, but it could take you another year to get started. But you've got a head start by the sounds of it.
It's the seeds that Stefaan and his companions are planting, which we hope that will grow out to a Soteria house. So it's just the roads of the growing plant, let us say.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. So have you got another one there, Julie? Another question?
Maybe I could. There was a number of questions, a few questions that sort of revolved around issues of like young people not accepting Soteria if it was offered to them, or in more situations that offer more freedom, like Soteria, putting themselves at danger or not wanting to be on medications when someone thinks that they should. There was a number of questions about that, like how to incorporate people's individual freedom with keeping them safe, I guess would be a way of summarizing it.
Can I react to that?
Yes, Nadia.
It was also the question, I think, about people who don't want help. How can you give them the help? I remember the very first time I was willing to get help, even though I thought I didn't need it. And I think that's the most important, that you get very soon, when somebody is going nuts, let us say, that very soon people are around them to give them this approach, the open dialogue approach. Because indeed, when you get traumatized the first time by help, it's very difficult afterwards to get the trust to go back again to the place where you first started. And I cannot imagine a traumatizing Soteria experience. I cannot imagine that. It's sometimes treatment forgets the humanity. People have bodies. They need to go to the toilet at night. If you forget that, that's dehumanizing. It's just that's simple. You don't tie people up and leave them alone. For instance, that's these basic things. If you can avoid them, to start, wouldn't be that bad.
Walter, you want to add something to that because you have a Soteria house?
Yes, I think, you know, always giving people a second, third, and fourth chance is very important. You know, we have guys who come and go. And sometimes we say, okay, now it's you get a break for 3 months because team is exhausted. But you know, they need sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4 approaches to the Soteria thing, and we should give them the chances to experience more and more confidence, and then starting something which we could teletreatment. In dealing around medication. So it's always a discussion about everything and how much can we give and how much can we expect if we are patients, if we are users, if we are professionals, or family and relatives. So we have to bring together these different sides and then try to find out how we could help the person in which needs help. So, and sometimes it's, you know, having a walk in the forest and not coming to Soteria house. So, or having an intense outpatient treatment or contact with social help. So it doesn't always need to circle around medication or whatever. So because it's not about the voices you're hearing, it's about the psychosocial dysfunctioning.
If people really share, or institutions or organizations, agencies really shared responsibility, then there would probably be less like some psychiatrist or some hospital and feeling that the buck stops there, and that if they don't, you know, all the responsibilities on them to prevent anything bad happening.
I see time is running, and I propose to have still one question, and then we really have to finish it because it's already very late. Is there one question now that you want to ask Julie or Jen? Another question, the last one?
Jen, do you have a last one? Where did Jen go?
Jen is not there anymore, I see.
Maybe I could.
Yes,
Jen.
Jen.
Hello, very sorry. Yes. My son, who some of you know, has the same experience and might have benefited from a Soteria house, has been here with me, and he's just had to go now. So sorry.
Do you have one more question?
Yes, question from Nico, if this hasn't been asked already. Nico would really like to hear more about hearing voices evenings that one of you mentioned.
I didn't get the question about hearing voices.
Evenings that are arranged for people to learn more about hearing voices evenings.
So, Andrea, you're the expert.
Stefaan.
Sorry?
I think
Andrea is the expert.
Maybe Dag can tell something about it. We did it together, so.
Apart from the original open circles that we do in El Camino, we also organize some evenings, open circle evenings on hearing voices. And it was powerful to bring people with their own voice experiences and people with family experience and people with professional experience, just listening to each other and understanding, seeking connection and understanding. It was so powerful to just be part of this. And we really felt that people for the first time had the chance to talk about things that they didn't even thought they were they had words for. They could go on in a way that they have never felt before. Yeah, just providing the space to listen to each other, and something happens that makes you be able to go on. That's what we that's what we experience. It's just about listening. So how powerful can that be?
Exactly, and so good for family members to hear that and understand that, whether you've got a Soteria house or not. Really helpful.
Yeah, you really have to bring people together. That's where the magic starts. Yeah.
Sounds wonderful. Have we got time for any more questions?
No, we don't have time anymore.
Sorry.
This really was the last question because yes, we don't have time anymore. But perhaps Jen, do you want to give some conclusions now, or?
Yeah, I don't. Yes, sorry I missed the beginning on a journey that took forever. But I just wanted to say that the reason that this webinar is taking place now is that when some of our members of the EC were at the ISPS International Conference in Perugia, I went to this presentation, this workshop that Ludi helped to organise, and I have to say this was the thing that lit my fire, and I thought, I want to hear this again, and I want other people to be able to hear it. And I asked Ludi and Julie, and they said, good idea. So I'm really, really pleased that you were able to make it tonight, and it's been such a wonderful evening. And when I get the recording, I'll do my best to invite some people round so that they can share it and we can have the kind of discussions you've been having and make Soteria houses a reality here in the UK soon. Thank you. And thank you, National, for helping us spread the word.
Yeah, I have connection again. Yeah, oh, my internet was unstable.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, I want to close now by saying 3 words. I heard 3 words that I take home. 3 important words: connection, home, and hope. So let us keep this in our minds, and I wish you all a good evening, and I am very grateful to all of you, all the people who were speaking, but also the audience who were listening and that we could not see. I hope to see you again in the future in Helsinki. Bye, and thank you everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the discussants, the reflectors that came and helped us again.
Bye. Yeah.
So we